About the importance of biodiversity and green measures to be taken in terms of the output from the city itself. Velo has proved very popular. What other plans do you have?
Well, the biodiversity project is of course one that I think I suppose we would have pursued it in any case. But being in coalition with the Greens, of course, I think has put it a little bit higher on the priority list, and I think it's pursued, and I think it's a good thing. Is pursued perhaps with more determination than it would otherwise have been, but I do really think that the world would have a lot. The world really as a whole would have a lot to gain from returning closer to sort of a rhythm of life as will be dictated by nature. I think this goes from foods to biodiversity in landscaping. If we arrange our green spaces in such a way that we privilege local plants, you'll have much less maintenance to do than if you import exotic species that you have to replace every year because they don't survive the winter or do not have enough humidity during the summer or whatever. And the same goes for food. I see absolutely no reason why we should eat strawberries at Christmas, but plus the fact of having to transport them. Treat them so that they survive the trip and hold longer on the shelves of the shops. So I think that this idea of going back to learning about nature, learning the diversity that it does offer by itself, is something very valuable. Now that does not mean that it does always go down well with people, and I can tell you that people particularly in the city. Because they were accustomed to this, would probably, in their majority, rather have well cared for lawns rather than have a field full of flowers and herbs. But there again, that is also not beautiful the first season. So it does require really a whole education of people, which we are trying to do. So we are selecting streets to inform people that this is now what we're going to do in terms of biodiversity. We're trying to get them themselves to learn about it and to follow this in their own gardens, on their own balconies, and so forth. And gradually, I think this is taking hold. And I think that's on the whole, as I said, in this general movement of respecting nature better is a good thing.
The notion of encouraging families in Luxembourg has been very important for many years. How have you felt that the Czech Service program and the Czech Repair programs have gone?
Well, that's a difficult question, because in theory I think it's a good thing that there should be an offer so that families would be better able to balance their working and their family needs, their job needs and their family needs and so forth. But I have a big problem with the way it was introduced, because it was a government decision really thrown at local authorities. Now here everybody is getting these checks, and you better make sure that there is an offer that they can use these checks for. So a city which has traditionally been the first to introduce early schooling, caring for kids over lunch and after school, and so forth, and therefore we were caring for about slightly more than 40% of the kids in our school system before the Czech Service were introduced. And when the Czech Service were introduced, of course, we had a jump. If you get something for free, you use it. So there was a big increase in demand, and for the first time we had waiting lines, and we would have much preferred if that had been done in consultation with local authorities, and quite frankly, if there had also been perhaps a little bit more of a selectivity in there, because Well, what I'm meaning by that is that people who have two very decent salaries, why should they get for free somebody to take care of the children, and have the taxpayer pay for it?
What
So,
they give back?
so
I mean, it's a possibility that you could earn a discount for the Czech service for learning the language of the nation, perhaps. So
that's an idea. That's an idea.
I'll sit there with you next time. I just have 2 more questions I'll try and get through before we change
Sure.
the language now. This one relates to CCTV and security issues of the city. What is becoming the priority?
Closed circuit TV for security reasons. We were not very happy with the idea, because we're not. First of all, we don't really see that we have that much of a security problem, and we think that that the police, if they were properly equipped and organized. Properly equipped means, above all, that if they had sufficient number of policemen, and if they were then indeed on the road rather than having to be very often in their offices, or just being able to drive around in their cars, would be a much better way of spotting problems and the good policemen in a preventive way solve them, rather than catch a thief on camera. So there was the privacy issue and all of that. Now the government asked us to agree to having such a program in 3 areas, which we agreed for a pilot phase of 2 years, on condition that it would thereafter be evaluated. The evaluation has been done, but it's been done by the police themselves. And I don't say that it was not properly done, but we would have preferred, and we have in fact been asking for an external evaluation with some proper benchmarking against similar experiments in the outside Luxembourg. Some of the effects that we were afraid of obviously have not happened. We had, for instance, been afraid that if you have closed circuit TV around the railway station, then whatever is happening there would be moving somewhere else. Now that has not happened. Obviously, that has not happened. The police can, with some justice, claim that they have solved a greater number of cases because of the system was helping, but they themselves then say, yes, but that was in fact only possible because in those places where we had cameras, we also put more police. So, which is the real thing. So we are not asking for an extension, in other words.
The final question then is, for this and next year, what steps do you feel would need to be taken in ensuring Luxembourg's attractiveness?
Well, I think we've got to be very careful that we. I think we have to be very careful that we do not lose some of the competitive advantages that we do have. The state prosecutor reminded us yesterday at a meeting that the Parliament introduced last year alone 127 new violations in terms of the penal code. Now that is only one example, and that is not. I'm not talking now about the administrative laws that are passed. So we've got to be very, very careful that we do not overregulate ourselves. That's one thing, because that's a loss of. Simplification administrative is high on the agenda of every single government, but not very much is happening there. That is something which we really need to come to grips with. The second thing is that as everybody who is working and earning money in Luxembourg knows, we are certainly not a fiscal paradise. But we also on the contrary, we have to make sure that that we do not, under pretext that we are now running budget deficits and so forth, to increase taxation. And there, I think that the city, and I think this is widely recognized, that we've done the right thing. We've saved on the expenses, and we have not sought ways to increase our